My name is Parker Russell. I actually enrolled in this class by accident. I just enrolled in English 101 classes, the only one that fit with my schedule. I didn't realize until my first day here that it was from the Black perspective. So I was kind of immersed into something I probably would have never, ever seen or thought of if I hadn't been here. Probably like I met friends at the library, just a part of society that I just wouldn't have delved into. I would have never thought of this, and I wouldn't have learned a lot of amazing things. I'm an engineering major, so I will be learning a lot of math, and I found out that I love math, even though I hated it as a kid. So I wrote about math, and I was exploring what I thought was possibly a theory that Greeks were not, in fact, fathers of mathematics. I always thought Greeks were super cool. I always liked, you know, the mythology behind it. I just thought like they were curious, they were passionate, they came up with all these amazing theories, and they proved them and all this stuff. And it turns out that most of them, Euclid, Aristophanes, I think is the right way to pronounce it, and Pythagoras all studied in Egypt from Black African fathers of mathematics. And a lot of the Pythagorean theorem, as we know today, was actually created in Egypt and was being taught almost 1,000 years before Pythagoras was even born. So there are things like that that are incredible. There was a bone discovered that had etched into it, and I think this was a bone dated to like possibly 23,000 BC. Way before Egypt, Egypt and the pharaohs was even a thing. This bone was dated to this time. The bone had etched into it all of the prime numbers, and only the prime numbers between 10 and 19, or 10 and 20, 11, 13, 17, 19. It's called the Ashango bone. It also had 3 and 6 inscribed in it, which is thought to be doubling, as well as 4 and 8, 2 5s and a 10. There's a 7 in there that doesn't really seem to ever be explained, but still, beyond that, it's pretty incredible. So anyway, I was kind of blown away with that, or by that. The thing was like a base 10 system was established way before we even did, and we use that today, you know, like the decimal system. Some forms of calculus, trigonometry, were all basically invented. Some of them were invented. Calculus was in some way invented because they needed to find a way to pay the people at different pay scales and different times of the year for different levels of work experience when they were building the Great Pyramid in Egypt. So they would just say like, oh, we have this problem. We don't want to add up all these different things and pay hundreds of thousands of people. So we'll just create a new way of counting, a new way of accounting that probably never existed before. So I thought that was incredible. So that just kind of knocked open a whole new world for me. So I love that. The second monograph is on drugs as a form of cold terror that turns hot, actually, is what it's saying. It talks about the CIA brought drugs in South Central through a whole crazy thing with the Contras. It's kind of complicated, but not really. But anyway, basically the CIA brought these drugs in, gave them to people who could make them affordable, and then criminalized it, which kind of forced mostly black neighborhoods or neighborhoods of color and oppressed fall prey to these drugs. It allowed gangs to buy guns so that people in the community could destroy themselves and distract themselves. And through that, the government was actually funding guerrilla warfare that would kill a leader who had taken over for another leader that the U.S. liked. So they were basically forming these two things. They were getting rid of this type of people they didn't want around. You know, they just didn't want to deal with or whatever. Not very well spoken right now. And then they were able to fund a war that they didn't even really have to be involved with. There's evidence that they've boosted heroin production and brought it here from Afghanistan, and also even during the Vietnam War. So then they criminalized it, and the people who are in these poor neighborhoods are now able to afford these drugs. They criminalize it, they can bring them in, arrest them, and say, well, if you can't pay this crazy fine, because you spent your money probably on drugs. You can't afford this fine, so you can go to jail instead, and we can lease you out to companies. So there's this thing called convict leasing that isn't technically still around, but it's actually still around. They just call it different stuff. So that was also incredible. And frankly, the biggest thing I think I learned was that it makes me mad when I don't know what's actually going on in the world. So I've become a little more of a skeptic, and I think that's cool, especially because I want to be a scientist, and I thank you for it. I'm really happy that I made this class.